My friends, the Europe you know, the Europe of imperial powers and mastery of the seas no longer exists. What remains today is a maritime dwarf that sleepwalks toward its own abyss. While the mainstream media focuses on empty diplomatic speeches, a clear-eyed reading reveals that the United Kingdom, the historic mistress of the seas, today cannot even send its only warship to protect its interests, in Cyprus for example. This means that European sovereignty has evaporated and the continent has become a vulnerable territory, unable to guarantee the security of its own citizens and its own trade routes. The farce was brutally exposed when Donald Trump asked the European nations a simple but devastating question. Will you send frigates to the Strait of Hormuz to escort your own tankers? The answer was absolute silence. That silence was not just a political slight, but a technical confession of incapacity. Europe is not sending help because one reason is that it has no ships to send. What we are witnessing is the physical bankruptcy of a continent that traded its protection for 6-week vacations and free healthcare, while powers like China churn out warships as if they were propaganda leaflets. Trump's checkmate move just revealed that the king is naked and the ocean no longer belongs to the West. And to understand the seriousness of the collapse, we need to look at the numbers the system tries to hide. In 1982, when Argentina invaded the Falklands, the United Kingdom sent a task force of 43 warships to the South Atlantic. Today, the entire Royal Navy has only 17 surface combat ships. This means that England's power projection capability has been reduced to less than half of what it was in a single operation in the past. France is following the same path of decay, and Europe is suffering from what experts call the Cadillac syndrome. They build extremely expensive, technologically advanced ships, but in such small quantities that they become useless in a real war scenario. Having only a few high-tech ships means that any loss in combat is irreplaceable, making European admirals cowardly out of strategic necessity. And they can't risk their Ferraris of the sea against $20,000 drones that Russia and Iran mass-produce. Maritime dominance has been neglected in favor of unsustainable social welfare policies. While the United States Navy operates 84 large surface vessels, all of Europe combined can't maintain a constant presence in its own territorial waters. This has created a power vacuum in the Baltic and North Sea, which Russia has already begun to fill, turning the European coast into a playground for Putin's submarines. But if you think the problem is just the ships that don't exist, wait until you see who's occupying the seats in the European Parliament today. Physical disarmament, the lack of ships, the lack of military defense equipment is the symptom of a much deeper disease. Moral disarmament and radical infiltration that is devouring the continent from within. The latest reports indicate that Europe has been the victim of a Trojan horse orchestrated by the globalist left and Iranian Islamic radicalism. In the last 2 decades, the borders were opened under the humanitarian pretext, but the real goal was to import voters to guarantee the hegemony of left-wing parties. What these useful idiots didn't foresee is that the radicals they brought in didn't want to be integrated. They wanted to replace the local culture. Today, Europe is infiltrated by Islamic radicalism directly influenced by Tehran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. And the immigrants who arrived en masse, mostly fleeing the wars in the Middle East, brought with them the tensions and the jihadist ideology that the system pretended not to see. This means that today in cities like London, Berlin, and Paris, there are pressure groups that organize strikes and violent protests, dictate the rules of coexistence, and occupy strategic public positions. And the European left has become a hostage to these votes. They are the deciding factor in elections. The result is absolute institutional weakness. The government cannot enforce the law against radicalism without losing political power. The infiltration map shows that Iranian radicalism and Syrian militias operate influence cells within European universities and municipal councils. Those who used to be refugees have become agents of social transformation. They seek to turn Europe into an Islamic caliphate. The replacement is underway. The globalists with a drink in hand who thought they would control the masses are being replaced by clerics with a clenched fist who do not recognize the authority of the secular state. Europe has opened its doors to be devoured alive by a culture that does not belong to it. And the silence of the authorities is proof that capitulation has already happened behind the scenes. And pay attention. Here in Brazil, specifically in the state of São Paulo, this is happening right now. But don't be fooled. This moral and military collapse is not accidental. There is a direct legacy of Soviet propaganda and the methods of the former KGB at work in the dismantling of Europe. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union infiltrated left-wing parties and pacifist movements with a single goal: to weaken the West's defense through internal demoralization. That seed has sprouted, and today we see the result. A generation of European bureaucrats who see their own army as an enemy and national sovereignty as an outdated concept. This is already reflected in Brazil as well. Putin's Russia inherited this network of influence and uses it to ensure that Europe remains dependent, disarmed, and demoralized. And by financing narratives that prioritize extreme identity and environmental agendas over investment in defense, the Kremlin ensures that the continent has no bite when NATO's borders are tested. Europe made the biggest strategic mistake in its existence. It handed its fate over to a bunch of useful idiots who believe that dialogue can stop hypersonic missiles. Have you noticed? Dialogue, multilateralism. While the radical Islamist wants to destroy you, your children, and your ancestors with a bomb pointed directly at your backside. Is this the reality we face today? The chaos we see today in the streets of Europe with jihadist marches and the destruction of cultural identity is the final trump card of the Russian destabilization strategy. Trump came to give a defibrillator shock to a patient who had already fallen into a coma. Trump's ultimatum and the demand that countries spend 5% of their GDP on defense is not a diplomatic rudeness, it's a survival test. Either Europe rebuilds its ability to defend itself and cleans its house of radical infiltration, or it will cease to exist as a Western culture in less than a generation. The patient is on the stretcher. Washington's reality check is the last attempt to save what is left of European civilization. My friends, what happens in Europe serves as a mirror and a warning for us, for Brazil, yes, my brothers. The model of moral and physical disarmament that destroyed the European navies and opened the borders to radicalism is also a dream for certain political groups here. The PT? Lula? Yes, my brothers, they want the same result. A headless country, dependent on global bureaucrats and vulnerable to ideological infiltration that destroys the family and sovereignty. If we don't open our eyes to the European farce, we'll be next. We'll see our security traded for empty promises from a state that can't even protect its own borders. And the fuller, deeper analysis of this whole game and the technical details of jihadist infiltration are things the system doesn't allow us to discuss openly here. We're on rented ground, and any stroke of the pen over there can take down our platform here. So that's why I created my Intel bunker. Our bunker, our safe house where we can show the influence maps and the reports that the system tries to hide from you. Something deeper, denser, with names, with addresses. There are already more than 3,000 subscribers funding the truth that shields your mind. Access is in the first pinned comment in the QR code that appears here on your screen and in the description of this video. And if you want to protect your family's worldview against this ideological mud that has taken over movies and series, we created a powerful channel that offers recommendations for TV shows and movies. No whining, no woke stuff, everything for you to enjoy with your family and understand what has already been predicted in movies and is happening now in the world. Like, for example, the conflicts in the Middle East. Have they already been predicted in movies? Have they already been portrayed? Can you understand how Mossad works? How does the CIA operate within Islamic radicalism? The link is in the description in the pinned comment and also in the card that's appearing on your screen. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell and leave a like on the video. And if you want, become a member here directly on YouTube. Do you think Europe still has a chance of being saved, or is collapse inevitable? My friend, shield your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.